Hello, everyone, and welcome to Got Dreams. We are a digital learning arena for artists and professionals who want to gain new creative skill sets, grow an online audience, and master their money. Welcome, Ted McGrath, creator of Got Dreams and also creator of 5 household brands and Message to Millions. Welcome, sir.
Hey, it's good to be here, man. Always good to be here.
You hear that echo? Get an echo.
No. Oh, back there, it's playing on another computer. Look at us.
Live television, ladies and gentlemen.
Global in the living room.
There we go. All right. So I'm super thrilled today, Ted. We've got a lot of folks here joining us, and they begged us last week. They really wanted to know how to make sales online and really think about from A to Z, from getting folks to follow them online to building their business, and then ultimately how to enroll people over the phone and how to make sales. Maybe we start at the top. Maybe we start a little bit of your story, how you got here, how you built what you built, and then we'll dig into kind of some of the nitty gritty.
Yeah, I'd love to see if anybody has any question on sales too that we can take as well. But how did I get started in sales? I don't know, default kind of, I got into the insurance business when I was 21 years old by default. And I didn't have a better plan. My plan out of college was nothing. Initially, I was going to go into business with my dad, and his business didn't go so well. So I was like, I need a job. Walked into an insurance office thinking it was a magazine, as you know, and decided to take the interview. I think my thing is I never really thought that I was a salesperson. It's funny now. I was just doing an acting lesson with my acting coach, and there was this line in there that goes, "What if we made a deal?" In the scene, and my acting coach was like, "God, you said that like it was so real, like you said it a million times." And it's funny because I may have a persona that I'm a sales guy because I'm good at it, or I can communicate, or I can make a pitch. I'm more of a presenter and a speaker than anything, And sales, I just happen to have a knack for because I've learned it over the years and I've observed what works and how to actually talk with people. But initially, when I got into the insurance industry, if I get the gift of gab going, as you know, I can do on these shows, that's how I sell best, right? But I actually had to learn to ask the right questions of people so that I could have a communication with people to really get to what is important to them and then bring it out. And I think that's the most important thing in sales. You got to find that thing for people that is really important to them. And you gotta narrow in on that. And you don't need a lot of it through the conversation. You just need the right things from them that are the truth. A lot of questions isn't better than 2 or 3 penetrating questions. If you miss the sale, I was coaching my senior sales team last night, my junior sales team today, and I just happened to be on the phone to do a sale today for one of our high tier programs to help one of my guys get this woman into our program. And so I happened to do a sales call today, which I don't do, And so it was interesting because I was training my team on things that they missed in the sales conversations. They're like, what did I miss? What did I miss? And I'm like, you missed the penetrating question, The client's saying X and they're giving you something and you're doing everything around that conversation, but it's not X. There's really Y, which is their true answer. And you haven't gotten to Y, not like WHY, but with a Y, right? You're on X and you haven't gotten to Y.
Right.
So you missed what was real in the discussion. And if you get to what's real with people, the sale's really, really easy. And when I got off today, and what a wonderful woman she is, like wonderful woman, totally in communication, just really, really sharp. And I got off the phone with her today, and I think she made the comment at the end, like, "Hey, you're great at sales." And really the way I started that call was just to have a conversation and get to know her. I wasn't thinking like, I knew that she was here to talk about our program, but I wasn't sitting there bringing up our program from the start. And I just had a conversation to just get to know her and just chat. And so I think if you think of sales more as a chat with people, that's normal. If you think of it as an interview, you got to train to interview people. Not everybody's skilled at asking questions, but everybody can have a chat. So if you chat with people, you're good. Then throughout there, if you think of like interviewing and asking questions as just being curious, if you learn to be curious, then you're good too. So you chat and then you're curious and you chat and you're curious. And if you do it well enough, here's the thing. If you do it well enough, they're going to close themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you do it well enough. And I watched this years ago at 21, my mentor, he's not a sales guy. He's not a closer at all. So he doesn't really, that's not his skill set by the least, but he's really curious and interested in people. He's a great interviewer, the best I've ever seen, the best. And you walk away from a discussion with him where he's really interested and you feel great because you got to communicate what was important to you or just talk. And you walk away from a discussion with him wanting to have a relationship with him. And so many of you are coaches, consultants, service business where they need to have a relationship with you to buy the product. And if your goal was for them to walk away to really have, one, clarity of what they want, but two, wanting to have a relationship with you because they knew you were a person to help you get it, the product would be the transaction and the formality, and that would be all that it is. But there's too much emphasis today on salespeople trying to look smart and look like they know it all, or to close the deal when there is no deal. You know, a deal is made after a relationship is formed, but there's no deal to close in the beginning of a sales discussion because you don't know what you're dealing with.
It almost reminds me, Ted, of this idea of like, you know, a skeezy salesperson has almost like coffee breath, like sales breath. Like you can feel it coming off them that they're trying to close you or take advantage of you or manipulate you. And I think this is one of the biggest fears people have when they think about selling or becoming somebody who has their own business, or they are a consultant, or they are a coach, and they're terrified because they hate being sold to. But people love to buy. And I think if you can turn that around, as you're saying, and really be curious about people and let them buy from you as opposed to you trying to sell from them. And the way to do that, as you so eloquently said, is by learning about them, giving them an opportunity to talk about themselves and share about themselves, and being genuinely curious. How do you think people should approach a sales call from that perspective? How do you get in the mindset of not being salesy, but being, you know, approaching it from that inquisitive, compassionate, empathetic place?
Yeah, so there's a distinction, right, to understand when you're looking at salespeople or trying to understand them. I think people tend to try and classify salespeople sometimes as in this category or that category, and there's actually many categories, right? So you got to understand what you're actually dealing with and what you're seeing. Okay. So somebody who is not used to pitching or making a pitch would look at somebody online doing that and go, that is a snake oil person. Okay. Artists tend to have this perception of business people. I hang around enough, and artists tend to be weak in that area of pitching.
And they're terrified of it. Yeah,
because they're weak in that area. Somebody pitches for them, right? The great majority of them. Somebody pitches them for their shows or their deals. Somebody pitches them to create their agreements and their bookings. They don't have the skill set of that. Yet an artist is very entrepreneurial because they have to pitch themselves and face rejection all the time. And so they're actually very courageous and bold. They're just not skilled in the area of money. So when they see it, there's kind of a disconnect, right? Like, oh, pitching is no good, yet they pitch themselves every day to get a job, right? So it's a really interesting thing. So it's just a misunderstanding with an artist, understanding like what is pitching and what is selling. They don't quite understand it because they're selling themselves, but they're not selling a product. So they're very comfortable in selling the thing that is them, but they're not so comfortable selling the thing that's separated from them that actually is exchanged for money. So
right.
That's something important to understand. I've hung around enough artists to know that. And to see that the majority of them that I spend time with, they don't understand the pitch game, right? So they would need to learn the skill set of doing it and the skill set of sales, which they would actually be very good at if they trained on it, because they're pitching every day to get gigs, right? So that's the first thing. So you have somebody in a different industry who doesn't sell, they automatically look, and a lot of times they go, that's pitchy, that's whatever, because they don't know it. They don't understand it, okay? But because it's pitchy doesn't mean that it's snaky or salesy or whatever. You can do so much in a 60-second time horizon on Facebook and Instagram. It's an ad. Let's not forget it's an advertisement when you're doing it. So it's a pitch. Okay. How much can you do in 60 seconds? You got to grab attention, you got to do whatever, and you got to get people to take action. Okay. So that's a form of pitching. There's other, like I said, there's classes of salespeople. When you're on a stage and you watch somebody pitching, take into consideration the person could be nervous who's pitching. Take into consideration they don't know how to be in communication with the audience. Take into consideration they're still learning. So you might feel something that's weird. It doesn't necessarily mean that the person is bad, right? So that's important to notice. In a sales conversation, like I was just doing a scene and we were joking because we're not off book with the scene yet. I'm not, and we were joking, and my actor
Off book?
Off book meaning you know it cold. You don't have to look on the script. So my acting coach was like, "What are we going to do to get you to memorize your lines? Like, do we?" And I said, "Well, you can penalize me for Bitcoin if I don't show up next time and have my lines. Like that'll be a guarantee for make me do it, right?" So we were laughing, right? We were laughing really hard, and the funny thing is, like when you're actually reading from the script and you're performing, you're not. I'm good at it, but I'm not authentically myself because I'm on script.
Right.
So a salesperson oftentimes, when they're selling is on script, especially new salespeople, they're on script, they're following the script. So you lose that human connection. You might go, why do I feel like there's not a connection here? Because there's not a full connection because they're focused on the tool versus the connection with the person. So there's things that, that if you're being sold to, you have to have a little bit of forgiveness for people.
What do you say, just real quick, because you brought up that idea of a script, and I think a lot of people feel like they need to create a script when they're selling. So let's say I'm a consultant, or let's say I'm a coach, and I'm coaching other people in, let's say like I'm teaching people how to paint. And I'm trying to get somebody to hire me as their painting teacher.
Yeah.
And I write this little script. How do I follow my script and be with the person simultaneously?
Yeah, I think the first thing is one, get the questions, know a few questions and get good at asking questions. Right. And so that's not as much of a script as it is. I have a few questions to go back to that are in front of me. I'm pretty present if I have 3 questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I can ask questions and be curious and be genuinely interested in what the person wants to accomplish, right? And then that's easy, and I'm really there and connected. 2, don't make your pitch that long, like because your customer is not an expert in painting in this example. So if you try and give them too much information in the pitch, you're going to lose them because they don't understand it. So the art of
because you're almost trying to, it's almost like sometimes you come from this perspective of like, I'm a painter, I'm going to teach you how to paint on this call where I'm trying to sell you as a student, right? Do you think, I think that's what a lot of people run into, is they try to teach too much while they're trying to sell their product.
Right. And that's another problem. There's both. One is trying to teach too much, because if you try and teach too much, they're not going to be able to absorb it because it's like you're on grade 0. You're trying to go to grade 5, they're grade 0. In the pitch, if you try and make it too advanced in terms of what you share, then what happens is you lose people and you lose the communication, particularly one-on-one. You need that communication, right? So if you look at our pitch, when we're selling like Message to Millions with our sales team, it's like, the first thing is find your message, right? That's module 1, right?
Right.
And so then we go, the coach says, so how would that help you accomplish your most important goal if you found your message? Right. So then you relate it back with a question to the goal. That's the entire first module. There's no more explanation than that.
That's brilliant. Can you say that one more? I just want people to really absorb that.
Yeah. It's like if you have a step or a module in your training or a lesson, you just go, great. So step 1 is how to find your message. How to find your message is 5 words. That's the description of what you're getting. And so you're like, well, the customer needs more than that. Why? Like, is the customer struggling with their message? Yes. So then you say to them, great. So how would, you don't go, does finding your message sound good? Then you get a yeah. You don't say that. You go, how would your message, finding your message, help you solve that challenge that you talked about? Or how would your message help you accomplish that goal that you talked about? So you relate your product back to their goal, because what they're buying is their goal. They're not buying your product. Your product
That's
doesn't get
so
sold.
powerful.
Yeah, your product doesn't get sold unless they buy their goal. I mean, I was on the phone today and I didn't even think of making the offer because one, I know she had heard it before, but two, when I'm making a pitch, I don't think about making the offer when I'm one-on-one, because I don't think about it, because to me, it's not important. And you might go, that's weird, right? No, the client's going to ask. The client, wait for the client. They will ask. They know they're there. Most clients will ask, and they will ask a question and give you the signal that they want to buy something or they want to know. So just have the conversation. So let's say assume you're in the pitch and they go, okay, great. So they tell you how finding the message would help them with their challenge. Great. So the second step is, we help you package a program and a service, right? So you can scale it.
Right.
And then they go, so in terms of that income goal of, you said you wanted to make, $10,000 a month. So how would packaging a program help you do this?
Right. And then they give you the answer, which is
whatever they say.
Right.
And you don't go, oh, that would be, if they go, that would be great. You go, great. So tell me more. Like, how would that actually help you with that goal? And then they go, I don't know. Well, what would it do for you if you had a program? So you got to ask it in several ways so they give you an answer that's thought about, because the more they think about it, the more they make it their own. The less they think about it, the more it's your idea. And somebody doesn't want to buy somebody else's idea. They want to buy their truth and their origination and their idea. That's how you get invested. So the whole way through the conversation, you're selling them on their goal. So I tell my guys, my junior coaches today, they're like, well, what piece of advice would you leave us with? And I said, the thing is, when you get off the phone, like, one, don't ever worry about a customer getting upset if you did the thing that you thought was within our policy, which is, one, finding out what their goal is. Like, that's our policy. You have to find out what their number one goal is, and you got to know what it is, right? So if you skipped our policy, which doesn't serve the client, and the client gets upset with you, well, you did something wrong, right? Two, your own ethics. Like, if you really found their goal and you would feel like you were in your own integrity on the call, and you challenged the client, and you really challenged them towards their number one goal, and the client gets upset, then I'm never going to be upset with you. I'm never going to have an issue with what you did, right? Because if you did what was right, then you're fine. Okay. Now, people get upset by all kinds of things that make no sense, right? Like, you could say hello on a sales call, and all of a sudden somebody could go, I hate salespeople. Somebody could see a video of yours and go, oh my God, I hate people who are pitching things like that. And they don't even know you. They haven't even heard you say a word. They just saw the framework of the ad. So you never know how people are going to react. And most people aren't reacting to things in present time. So most of the times it's not about you anyway, unless you did something specifically that was off our policy or out of your own ethics that set them off. So right. I said, what you need to do is give yourself the freedom to live a little bit and help this person achieve. And you can't help this person achieve if, number one, you don't know that you're in control of the conversation. Like, as a salesperson, you have to be in control of the conversation. Why? Because the client is showing up for coaching. They can't control the call because they don't know what they're doing. Right? So control doesn't mean force, close, handle.
Right.
Control means you set the intention for the call, you stay on track, you have good communication, and you guide them towards the finish line based on what they're telling you that they want, right? And you got to have certainty in that. So number two, if you're offering something, I said, when people are coming to us, we have the system, we have the track record. So if you're a salesperson and you're selling somebody else's stuff, or you're selling your stuff, and you step back and you go, wow, the stuff I'm selling is really good and really proven, then you need to bring that certainty into the call, even if you don't hold that certainty fully for yourself. Right. So you need to rely on some type of certainty that you can rely on. I may not be good at sales, but I might know that I'm the best darn chiropractor in the world. I got to bring that certainty to the call.
That's a great point. Bringing the confidence from what you are great at to the call, even if it's not about sales.
Yeah. So you have to bring that to that. And then you also got to know that, like, when somebody comes to our enrollment calls, this is what I train my guys on. Like, this is our thing, right? This is what we've created. You've got the years and the millions and millions of dollars that we made, the tons of people that we've helped, as a certainty to back you up. So your only job is to find out what's important to the client and get them really clear on that so the client can buy their own goal. And when the client buys their own goal, they're going to buy more of our products, and then we all win.
What's your advice to people who are on their own and they're just getting into enrolling people or selling to people their consulting services or their products or their coaching, and they don't have that certainty of, having created 5 household brands, having made billions of dollars? What's your advice to them? Any tips or tricks when it comes to mentally preparing yourself to have that confidence and be in control of the call?
Yeah, just get training, like you got to get training and you got to train on it. I mean, the truth is, if you train and train and train and train, your own abilities would come out. It's not like the system's doing anything for you. It's just like giving you a framework to bring out your ability that's already there. So that's what I believe. I don't believe any system actually fully transforms or shapes me. I believe that the system is there, and if I train on it enough, I'll find my own abilities. And then eventually that's when it becomes an art. It's no longer about the system or the process, but it's the person who's running it, and then it's an art, right? A guitar is a guitar, but you put the artist on there playing it and you get a totally different sound. A salesperson, you're an artist of communication. And so you can use the process over and over and over again. And once you make it your art, because you're so trained on it, your personality starts to come out, your style starts to come out. And the more you train on it, the more confidence you get on it. And then from there, the more abilities are wanting to come out. You just got to validate what's working. So when you have a win, like a win is picking up the phone and having an enrollment call with somebody if you didn't close it. A win is that somebody got clear on their goal. A win is that you made the pitch. A win is that you handled some objections and they still said no. A win is that you asked about their money situation and you had the courage to ask about it. These all things are wins, right? So if you count all the wins and you forget about the losses, you validate what's working, and then eventually you're going to have success. Because the truth is, like, if there was no invalidation in the world, you see everybody shining and flourishing and winning. But invalidation is like the killer pill, right? You invalidate yourself, you're done. Somebody else invalidates you. It's a really tough thing. But all the abilities are there. You just got to train on certain processes that allow your personality and your communication to come out. Because what is sales? It's communication.
Well, and building them, but you make a really important point, and I don't want to gloss this over, is validating the tough things that you do along the way, even if you don't get the result that you're looking for. So having the right mindset when it comes to what is a win. And so being able to ask tough questions, being able to ask people about their goals, being able to do the little things that are scary, but you do them, even if you don't get that sale yet. That's the path forward, and that's what builds the confidence, and that's what gives you the momentum to eventually get to that enrollment. Let's go to a question real quick. Arame says, what are your go-to ways for developing a relationship before selling? And is there a time frame between relationship building and a sale?
Yeah, I think it's all relationship, People got to like you, and you got to like them and be interested in them, That's the truth. So I think the whole way through it's a relationship, and then at that point you're just asking the next logical question. I don't know, like at some point, like you get to a point where like you're so trained on the questions of like asking. So I forget what I asked today when I was enrolling this woman, but it was just natural because that's just what you would ask. Like, okay, so you ready to do this thing, or whatever comes out, right? So it's just part of the relationship. It's kind of like, hey, you want to go to the movie or go to the park? Hey, you want to pick up the phone for me? Or it's just the next logical question. So I think the whole way through, it's a relationship, which is what actually makes the sale. In a sale, it's just the next question that you have to ask. It's an interesting thing because, like, if it wasn't labeled something, it's really a conversation to help somebody get what they want. And so, how many times throughout life do you have conversations with people to help them get what they want? So the whole way through is a relationship. Now, if you're breaking it down, like, how do you make it simple before you get into like enrollment or making a pitch? If I knew nothing about sales, I just pick up the phone and call people and say hi and tell them, here's what I'm doing. And then not sell anything. And then I'd call them up again a week later and tell them, hey, here's what I've added to what I'm doing. I want to get your feedback and opinion. And then I call them back after that and said, hey, listen, thanks for listening to me. You want to do a free coaching session with me? Your opinion was great, and it seemed like you were interested in things we were talking about. And could I do a free consultation with you? And you'll find that the consultation is amazing because it's 60 minutes and I ask you about your goals. And at the end, if you like my service and it matches with your goals, then great. If not, then thanks for letting me spend this time with you.
Right. And that does two things. One, it gives you the ability to have an opportunity to enroll that person. And two, it gives you the confidence and the training to have followed through and actually do that coaching session. So you're building your reps. I think that's one of the most undervalued pieces of this puzzle is building reps, because it takes a while to get really comfortable doing these things. But once you start building that momentum, you start to see things change. You start to see your business grow. You start to see the effects of other people telling other people. And so many people just want to give up when they run into those walls and roadblocks. But that's the exact time when you have to keep pushing. It's really scary for people, but if you keep pushing, it will happen.
Yeah, you got to train on it, like anything that you're going to be good at, you got to train. If you work out and you want a good body, you got to train. If you want to get good at sales, you got to train. So whether that's, role playing with friends, you should role play. We have our team role play all the time. They're role playing with each other and they're studying. So they're studying every day and they're role playing. And those are the successful ones.
I think that's one of the really cool things too about Got Dreams, a Message to Millions, because not only do people get the training from the process and the coaching, but they also have other people. Have you ever heard of the term a rising ship lifts all boats? And this is the thing, when you surround yourself with greatness, when you surround yourself with people who are training towards something greater, you start to see results because you stay inspired, you're connected with other people, you're role playing together, and then you're out there sharing wins. And that can be a huge part of the process. Ted, what have you seen with people who, have gotten started with like Message to Millions? And also, I want to make sure folks know in the description below, we've got several links so you can have access to quite a few of the products that we have for free, complimentary products that are going to help you take your art, take your business to the next level. All you got to do is click the link below, but don't go anywhere yet, because we've got more to share with Ted from Ted. But Ted, I'm curious, what is the outcome that you have seen from people who have enrolled in Message to Millions, in Got Dreams, that they've taken this training and gone out there and made something special? What are your who would you point to as some of the people who've done really well with that?
Well, I think the best people are the people who are most interested in getting good at sales. It's just an interesting thing. Like, we've had, I can think of two offhand that were relentless about the sales process. One a chiropractor and the other a mortgage broker, so two very different fields. And wanting to get good at that discussion. One of them, no skill set in it whatsoever, making $50, per client.
Mm-hmm.
The other, a $500,000 business, right? And thought he was really good at it, and then coming into our program and realizing he wasn't as good at sales, like in terms of coaching and consulting sales. And so like wanting to master it. And then both of them, got really, really good at it. And then of course they went on to, one of them now went from zero with us to, I think he's got a $3 million business now, and it's online. That's David Mailer, chiropractor. And then, and we reinvented him completely. But the thing that really made him strong was the desire to want to know that enrollment conversation, and want really people to not get off the phone saying no to their goal. And so, and he's like, I want to be I don't want to be the reason people say no to their goal. That was his thing. That's what he said to me. So he's like, help me get really great at this. So that was him. And then Dan was another one. And then he got really good at it too. And it's interesting. Then they both went on to do seminars, and they both did $400,000 to $500,000 their first year in their seminar business with us. And then they both went on to build online businesses. Dan more new, and David, 5-6 years ago. And the reason why their funnels work online is because they sell well. So if you're going to take enrollment calls online, show me a great salesperson and I'll show you double the ROI. So like if I'm putting $1 in and making $3 back, I could be making $6 back with a superstar salesperson who closes at double the rate. If Dan, when he was running his funnel, I remember he had a great month, $1 and $8 or $9 out, but he was selling and he was closing 70% to 80% of the leads that would come through. David too. David would close 60, 70% of the people. And some people looking to go, that's astronomical on a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 program. Not really. if you're trained with our stuff, like for me, I every client I talk to, like every client I would talk to on the phone, I get 100% close. 100%. And it'd be 100% on their goal. No client would walk away without 100% commitment to their goal. Then the question would be, well, great. Well, I don't have the money. Then I dig into the money, and I dig every which way from Sunday.
Could you talk about that? I think that's one of the things that people have such a hard time with is when people say, well, I don't have the money right now. Can you walk us through some techniques that you've developed when, like, how do you, I guess, A, gain the confidence to even talk to them about their money situation? And then
Yeah.
B, what are the things you ask them about that help you to unravel the belief that's blocking them when it comes to money?
Yeah. So remember, all of it's just communication, right? So like, it's like if I'm an artist and then I say I don't like sales and I can't sell, it's because I haven't communicated around selling products in exchange for money before. But they communicate from a stage or communicate on film. They do it all day long. If I am a salesperson and I communicate well on sales, but I don't communicate well about money because I haven't communicated enough on the subject of money. So it's repetition, right? It's like I started in a business where we talked about money. I have lots of money, so I talk to my financial guys all the time about money. I talk to my brother every day about money. I talk to my tax guys all the time about money. Every day there's a conversation about money. So it's kind of like pretty soon you're talking about money all the time. It's like breathing air. It's like what color said like what color shirt are you going to wear today? How much money you got in Bitcoin today, right? How much money do we make today? You know, how much money are we going to pay in taxes? Like what's our, you know, it's a constant conversation. You know, how much am I giving to charity this month? So it's always, you know, what's payroll, right? What's payroll going to be this week, right? It's always, as a business owner, you're always talking about money. So remember, these things are all practice, and it's not, to me, it's not beliefs about money. It's being unpracticed on the subject. That's all it is. You show me a wealthy kid who grows up with billions of dollars and he's used to walking around talking to people about the yacht club and the boat and all these things. I know because one of my best friends in college was a billionaire, right? And so they're used to that discussion. They're used to hanging out with billionaires. And so when they go talk to another billionaire, they're comfortable because they're practiced. Doesn't mean they're any better than you. It doesn't mean they don't have problems where they're not sticking stuff up their nose or doing something else, right? So you just have to remember that they're practiced in it and they're comfortable. It's their environment. So if you don't know how to talk about money, there's nothing wrong with you. Okay. You don't need to go get professional help. Okay. If you don't not good at sales, there's nothing wrong with you. It's not that you're not good enough. It's just you're not practiced in it.
Right.
Right. And so if I want to get good at something, I need to practice doing it. So if I'm on a discussion, the first thing I should get good at is the sales conversation and making the pitch and get comfortable with that. Because I get if you rush it and go, tell me about your money without being good at the questions and developing a relationship, that should be your first thing. Develop the relationship, ask good questions. Then you get to the pitch. Get good at making the pitch and relating it back to their goal. Great, you're good. Right? Get good at asking for the credit card. Great. So here's the investment. You know, and then wait for them to reach or do whatever they're going to do, right? And then you're there and you've done some things. Now, okay, why am I not better? And I've told my guys this. I told my guys this that if you get good at the money conversation, you'll double your income. Right? If you get good at the money conversation, this would go for life. Like if you understand money, you get good at interacting with it, you'll double your income, right? Simple, because you have knowledge on the subject. You get more knowledge on the subject and you're going to have more ability to control it. Okay. So I go ask about them, have the money conversation. Now I know they're not doing it as much as they train and they watch, they're trying it. The good ones are trying it. The really great ones have done it. And the juniors who are starting on with us, they're not even close to doing it because they don't have that yet. So they're asking me today, the junior guys who are really sharp, the guys that have it. And they're like, so what do I do when the money conversation? And I said, well, you don't go to a client after 45 minutes, even though you have a relationship with them. You don't just go, so what do you have in stocks?
Right. What's your credit? What's your business credit line?
It would cause an upset, right? Okay. So, but in the beginning of the call, and I'll share this with all kinds of people in other industries, and they'll go, you can talk about that because your business is money and my business is health. And I go, okay.
Great point. Right.
I totally hear you and I understand you, but they're holding some belief that's not true, right?
Right.
Something that's not true. It's not even whatever. It's just an excuse of like, you can do that and I can't. And I always go, well, what is a way that could work? Because it works for every industry, right? So in every industry, if you talk to the client about their number one goal, they're like, well, why should I talk to the client about their goals? I'm here to talk to them about health. And I go, that's part of the problem. You're only talking about health, which is why they don't see the benefit in your product fully and why you're not getting paid, because you're selling health versus how health relates to every area of their life. So the people who really make money show people results of how what they do impacts every area of somebody's life. And that's what you're supposed to do. So if you were to do that in the beginning of a call, you would actually find out what's their personal goal, their professional goal, what's their financial goals. Hey, I know we're here talking about health and, your personal goal is this and whatever. How are things going at work with your health and your energy? Well, I'm not as productive as I want. Okay, how's that affecting you right now? Is it affecting your income at all with a lack of energy? Are you able to work full time? No, I'm working 20 hours less a week. Okay, great. So tell me, what are your goals with your work this year? I'd like to get back to full time. What would that mean? I'm making a full-time income. Great. So like, how much more money would you be making if you're doing that? I'd be making another $20,000. And if you asked it in that context, people would be comfortable. And so you do that at the beginning, right? And then people answer the question, and then you get to the end and it's like, you're in the discussion and they go, I don't have the money. And then you go, great. So tell me about your money situation.
And that's actually I think that's the biggest challenge that people have. And that's such a simple question. And it takes all of the onus off you. You don't have to do anything.
Totally. And it works like, it works different countries, cultures, whatever. I hear all kinds of stuff like, that doesn't work in the country or what have you. And I respect people's beliefs and wherever they come from. But I've tried it in all kinds of different countries and it works. I was on the phone with somebody in London, like, 4 months ago. I always get called when they can't get the client to close on their goal, right? So I get called in for those. So I get called on the tougher ones, right? So I get called in and I get on the phone and hey, so I have this great discussion with her. I build a relationship first. I don't just come in and go, hey, blah, blah, blah. I build a relationship. I've learned.
I'm Ted McGrath. Rah, 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 rah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I'm interested, right? Because I can't go in and just start saying do this when I don't know anything about the situation. So I'm interested. I find out, blah, blah, I build a relationship. We have a good rapport. We get to the end and the relationship's great. And I go, great. So tell me about your money situation. Well, yeah, I'm doing okay. I go, great. So, and she said, I said, what does doing great mean? She says, well, I'm making, XYZ my business. Like, something like 7 figures. I go, how many 7 figures? Right. And all that was fine. It was $1 million. Okay, great. So now we've gotten to the money conversation. I got $1 million business. Okay, great. So then we get to whatever. Well, I really want to do your program. I don't have the money. I go, okay, great. So tell me about your money situation. Well, I've got some money available. I go, how much money do you have available in your savings account right now? She goes, I don't want to tell you that. And my response was simple. It wasn't like, why not? It was just like, oh, why not?
Right.
Because. And I said, well, I totally get it. I said, and ultimately, I want to help you. And for me to help you, I'm coaching you here and I'm guiding you on your situation. It's important for me to know, since we are exchanging money, if we're going to do something together, I need to know your situation. So how much money do you have in your savings account? I have, $64,000. Great. How much money do you have in this? I have this, whatever, So and these aren't the real numbers. I'm just making this stuff up, right? So somebody says that and you go, great. Cool, right? And then you go, great. So how about your credit cards? Like, do you have any money in your credit? Well, I don't want to use credit. That's totally fine. Like, what we're doing is just assessing what we have here.
Right.
If we're going to look and make a decision on something, you want to know all your cards are on the table and you want to pick the best card, right? So we know we've got this. How much exists in credit? Well, I've got, several $1,000s available in credit. Great. How many credit cards? Okay. Now, do I need to know how many credit cards? No. Do I want to ask the question so there's more comfort level in talking and having the discussion and communicating about money? Yes. Right. So how much credit card? Great. Do you have any stocks? Do you have any investments? Yeah, I've got this. Right. So whatever they answer. So you get all these answers and then you look at the situation. Now we know the money situation. Now, are you more likely to now know as a salesperson that the money's there? Like, now we have money there. Now we know the goal is that they want this thing because they want their number one goal and they're committed to it. So what else is left on the table? And now the client's saying no, but I can rule out money. I can rule out goal. So now I'm interested. Is there somebody in your life who doesn't believe in you? Is there something, what's going on here? Tell me what's going on here. Or is there some lack of belief you have in your ability? What is it? So now they're like, I'm in.
That's such a great point. Yeah.
Right. So now I've taken things off the table to go, great. And like, my question is, any other considerations or thoughts you're having about, why you would want to do this or not want to do this? I want to flush it out. So they might tell me. And then if they don't tell me, I go, great. So is there anybody in your life that doesn't fully support you in this or does fully support you in this? Well, yeah, I've got a spouse. What does your spouse think about your number one goal? I don't know. Does your spouse know your number one goal? Yeah. Well, we kind of got clarity on it today for the first time. So I wouldn't expect your spouse to know fully how important this is to you because we're getting clarity on it, right? So would your spouse support you in this? Oh, yeah, 150%. Great. We can take that off the table. Now all it comes down to is belief of parting with the money.
Right.
If it's a spouse thing, then we got to talk about that. So you got to get to the real issue. One of my salespeople was telling me last night that one of our customers was having a challenge and they had invested some money and then they lost that money. And I said, and they're talking about that. And I said, but you missed the penetrating question. She's like, what's the penetrating question? I said, the penetrating question is, you're trying to focus on this loss of money and getting the client over it and the client's still stuck on it. But the real penetrating question is, you just invested XYZ dollars in somebody else's business and you lost it. It wasn't yours. So when are you going to make the decision to believe in your own skill sets and yourself to invest in your business? That's the question. It's not about what you lost. Whatever. Like truthfully, who cares? You lost money, right? It sucks. Right? You're going to lose money when you do things once in a while. You made a bad decision. So what? Okay. Well, it cost me a whole heck of a lot of money. Okay. I get it. So what are we going to do about it? When are you going to start believing in yourself? And now you're into a real conversation to where you can get this person to succeed. And the truth is, if they sit there on the $30,000 loss, I'm not helping them sit in the past on a loss. I'm not helping them move towards their future. I'm not helping them move towards new skill sets to make that right. So I'm not trying to sit there and get, solve the problem about how somebody feels about their $30,000 loss. Not that my coach was trying to do that, but I'm not trying. That's not my job.
But you could get sucked into it if you're not careful.
Because it's not the real thing.
Right.
The real thing is done. You lost rationally, logically, you lost $30,000. It's gone. That's it. That's the logic of it. Everything else is, what are you going to do to move forward? Now, I know that's tough emotionally, but the reality is if you don't do something logical to fix the situation, then whatever your bank account is will never improve. And that's what you need to know when you're coaching somebody. So you got to get to what's real there and get them to see what's real. And somebody, I have this loss. I totally, I understand you do. I get that. And it sucks, right? It sucks, right? So what are we going to do about it? So it doesn't mean you don't hear them. Doesn't mean you don't listen to them. Doesn't mean you don't acknowledge them. But at the end of the day, that is not important, even though it's important to them. But that's not important for the future. Right. Right. And that's where you got to draw the distinction of people, because you'll hear all the time, I invested in this thing, it didn't work out. I invested in that thing, it didn't work out. When I was 18, and I went to college, I took my life savings of $4,000 and I invested in alcohol for a year and it's gone. Right. It was a bad choice. Right. I could have put it maybe in Bitcoin if it was around back then, but it wasn't. Right. Now I say all this
Tesla stock.
I say all this lightheartedly because there's real situations where people do this and you lose some dough. I get it. When I lost my house and I lost my cars and I was sitting there, it is not a good feeling. It's awful. But somebody's sitting there and trying to solve that problem for me when it's already done, in terms of to get that back and to solve that thing emotionally that I have around, that's not going to help me. What is going to help me is, hey, I totally understand. I hear you. It sucks. I get where you're at. And let's figure out a solution to move you forward so you're never in a situation like that again. Let's start believing in yourself. That's the conversation.
That's huge. Arame says, I started a 20-day FB Live sprint yesterday, leading to a coaching program launch. You inspired me last week to just do it. Thank you. Congratulations, Arame. Keep it up. That is the goal. Yes. Keep it moving. For those of you who are new here, we've got Ted McGrath. He is the creator of 5 household brands, Message to Millions, and Got Dreams. If you are passionate about taking your art, taking your business to the next level, we've got quite a few different links in the description below. All you got to do is click on one of them. We've got maybe you found Ted on Facebook. Maybe you saw one of his ads. Maybe you saw one of his videos. If you want to learn how to make videos like that, all you got to do is click the link. It says how to use videos and social media to get clients. Click that link. You can get started with that immediately. It's a free product. It's complimentary here today. We've also got how to use podcasts to get clients. One of the most underused opportunities for you to build your client base is to get booked on podcasts, whether you're an expert in coaching, consulting. There's so many different niches and industries that you could be in. Finding podcasts to get booked on and using other people's audiences to get people to join you on your journey and enroll them in your products and services is an amazing way to do that. We've got an amazing product. All you got to do is click the link below. You wanted to say something about that, Ted?
Oh yeah, just go, go get some resources, all that stuff's great and helpful. And, stuff that you get online is valuable because the way I look at like online programs and things like that, even the ones that we offer up is, you want to get knowledgeable on your craft. And online programs are great to get knowledgeable on your craft. It's great to go and study something and have knowledge and then go study something more and have knowledge, because if you're going to operate in your business and succeed, like having an understanding of what it is and really getting it is important. And so online programs are great for that. And online programs are great to, take an idea and go try it and do it. And this goes for all of you who are doing the online programs yourself and creating them. And then you go and create coaching. And coaching is different because coaching is helping people with the application of it, right? Because I could go learn something and then go apply it of what I did in an online program and go get a result. And then I go to do the next thing and then I apply it and I'm stuck. And so solving the problem when it arises, it's not always there in, a piece of information.
Right.
Solving a problem when it arises, it comes from a coach who's been there to go, hey, we faced this situation before. Let us coach you and let us help you on this situation. So keep getting online information, keep learning, keep getting educated. And then eventually you come to a place and you go, I got to pick the strategy that's right for me, because you do have to pick a path and go. And that's what coaching is helpful with, is to help somebody pick a path and stick to it.
Right. Gina says, what about selling value-based pricing, convincing them of the value of the product?
Yeah, I think that's great in the context of who you're talking to. And then I think you can do it to a room generally based on what you feel it's worth. And you can give examples. Like if I was doing it in a presentation, sometimes in a presentation, I give an example and I'll say, if you're a brand new person, this would be worth $5,000. To a veteran, this is worth $100,000. Right? Because there's context of that. A brand new person might not be able to get as much use out of it, but it's still super valuable. A veteran who's using that process every day, one small change could make them an extra $100,000 that year.
Right.
So value pricing is good if you speak to the people in the room. If you have all veterans, you speak to the veterans. If you have all beginners, you speak to the beginners. But you got to know your audience when you're doing a presentation, doing that. And then if you're doing it one-on-one, it's great because you can speak to the context of how that's worth something to somebody. But I have a better thing to do than that, is like, if you go through like your modules, I always teach my guys this, or my team this. I go, if you're going to make the pitch for a message to millions, which is several $1,000s, when you're on the phone, don't say all 7 modules and then it's $2,000. You could actually, when you tell them what the investment is, you can go through it and say, here's the investment, but you're not trying to establish the value based on all 7 modules. You break it down and you go, if you were to just do this step right here and get good at sales, and took yourself from a 4, where you rated yourself a 4 out of 10 to a 7 out of a 10, what do you think that would do for your number one goal that you just told me? And somebody goes, God, if I doubled my ability in sales, yeah, and you're brand new, do you think you could at least sell a program? Yeah, for sure. Great. So for you, just this step alone is worth the investment in the program. You see that?
Right.
And that's how I establish value. And it's not even saying it's worth 5 or 10 or 15 or 20. It's just going, just a step alone would be worth this investment. And that's a better way to do it when you're one-on-one, because it's more real. And I think that's just a better way to establish it.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Again, I just put the links to how to use videos and social media in the chat box. I also put the links to how to use podcasts to get clients in the chat box as well. So if you guys want to check those out, all you got to do is click that link to get started right now. And also, if people wanted to book a free coaching call, can you kind of share, Ted, what if people want to get on a coaching call with one of your coaches. What's the value in that? Why should they get started on that today?
Do we have like our links for Dream Client and stuff like that, or no? We don't have.
No, I've only got the links for the coaching call below, but I can get the links for Dream Client.
Yeah, the coaching call is like, you should probably just go buy one of our products. If you bought one already, go book a coaching call. You should probably go buy one of our products for $19 if you haven't yet. So when you download the free gift, there will be an upsell on the other side of like, hey, here's a product you can get too, right? So if you haven't done that, you should just go do it and check out our stuff and consume some of our content and then book. But if you already bought some of our stuff, you should go book a session and talk to a coach. Here's why a coaching session is important. Of course, on a free coaching session, you always get an offer. We all know that, right? And if you don't know that, then you know it now, right? But most people know this. It's one thing that's done in this industry. But here's what I think about free coaching, right? Of why it's valuable. And I said this to my sales team today on the call. And when I was training them, I said, one of the things you need to realize is that when somebody comes to a call, if you do it really well, and hey, Cynthia, Cynthia's in Elite. She's in one of our top tier programs. If you do it really well, and you do a great coaching session, you really help them get clear on what they want. When's the last time somebody asked you questions for 45 minutes to find out what was important to you?
Crickets.
When's the last time that happened? I mean, it's actually a great gift that they should call it a free gift call, because it's a great gift. It's a wonderful thing. And if you go in with that to go, God, I'm walking around in my life and I'm not really fully clear on what I want. I mean, I could think of several ways how that would be valuable for me in my life right now and certain things that I'm doing. So to give somebody a free coaching call is really a generous thing. And of course, we know that at the end, you're going to get an opportunity to, buy one of our coaching programs, of course, right? Because a coaching call done well, a free coaching call done well, helps the client establish what they really do want. And then is the first step that a client can take towards getting on the path to accomplishing that. And if you do it really well, like when I train my team, I go, no, that's not a goal. Like my guy last night, he's like, well, I don't know why I didn't get this person to say yes to what they wanted. I said, because that's not what they want. Because the guy said he wants to scale a business. I said, do you even know what scale a business means? Do you think your customer even knows what it means? Scale a business is a marketing term. People market that. And then the customer takes it on and goes, I'm going to scale a business. They don't even know what it means. So he doesn't want to scale a business. He doesn't know what it means.
That's such a good point.
Right? He says, yeah, but he's got stuff set up online and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, why don't we find out what's not working? Because if you're going to scale a business, you press the button and if you already have the scaling a business, look it up. You got to have the technology ready, the systems ready, the people ready, all those things in place before you scale. So somebody who's going, somebody who's saying, I want to scale my business and doesn't have those in place, they don't need, that's not their goal. Their next step is to do the basic fundamental things. And that's what you missed. And so I literally had him look up the definition. My sales guy of scale online so he knows what it means. It's true. It's a true thing.
I know.
People should know this stuff, People should know. We literally looked it up as a team. I said, it's very valuable to know. But you got to get the difference between a marketer's goal when somebody's marketing you something and then you as a customer take it on as your own goal and it's not yours.
Right.
Versus what does this person really want? I said, we don't know what this guy wants. And I said, thank God you're going to have another call with him because we owe it to him to find out what he wants. But that's not what he wants. Even though he's telling you that what he wants. Well, but that's what he's telling me. But ask deeply what's behind that. There's a personal reason why he's saying that. That's what you need to find out. So we got off and it was like really good training because, if you do that on a call and you really dig in, then you gave somebody the most valuable hour that they probably had in a year. So do free coaching calls for your customers. Feel proud that you do them and help people.
And talk about like we talked about mental mindset earlier about how important it is when you're getting on a sales call to be in the right mindset. And if you can be in that mindset of abundance and giving and simply trying to be there for somebody, and that's when you have the best results because you're not trying to sell. You're not coming across as somebody who's trying to take something away from somebody. You're there approaching it, trying to give. And I think that's the big difference between, that kind of brings this whole conversation full circle.
And I think you also gotta really, if they are saying something that they want, you gotta listen to what they're saying. Um, like you could be teaching XYZ system and like, hey, this is what you could do, but the customer's going, I really want to do this, and you gotta go, okay, great. So how could our system help you do that? So don't be married to your idea. Just help them get married to theirs, and you'll win. You'll do great.
It's amazing. Ted, it's an absolute pleasure spending this time with you. For those of you who are excited to get started with Ted, maybe you haven't, maybe you've just found Ted McGrath and you want to get started. I've put some links in here for you to check out some of our free products. You can upgrade to some of our paid products, and you can get on a coaching call. All you got to do is click one of these links. Ted, anything else that you want to leave folks with when it comes to online sales? Or phone sales that we missed?
Yeah, I just think the whole thing is a journey, and it takes a lot of work, And I said this we were doing a book interview for the new Got Dreams book that we're coming out with in the next 6 months, and it was just a conversation about like money. And I said, in the beginning, it's you at work, there's you. Then you get to a place where you develop relationships, and it's you and your relationships at work, and then you get to a place where you develop systems, and then it's systems at work. And so all along the chain, as systems go to work, there's less of you that has to do the heavy lifting. And then at some point in life, you get to a place where there's money at work, where your money's working, and then at some place in life, you get to a place where you're then using other people's money. Right. And that's what a lot of people do. They get investors and use other people's money to grow their net worth, use the bank's money, borrow at X and earn Y. So that's kind of the how I progressed up the chain of it to go, how do I get to that place? But to get to that place in the beginning, there's a lot of work you need to put in. And could you get there faster? Yeah. You gotta the learning curve, if you just kind of lessen the learning curve, well, how do you do that? You got to get a lot of knowledge first, because a lot of the work comes from heading down too many paths that don't make sense. So pick something right out of the gates where like, hey, this thing works, and then stick to that thing, and get that thing really successful. And we've done this with our funnel strategy over the last so many years, and Michael knows this. I'm like relentless on sticking to the thing, right? Because I know that to create a whole new thing takes a lot of work. And so it's like when you create success, then how do you stack on top of that? Doesn't mean you don't do anything new. You just stack the next thing, stack the next thing, stack the next thing. And then there's less work as you stack the next thing, which means, and I don't mean less work like where you're not going to, like I'm productive. So I like to work, right? So I like to do things, and I like to be productive, and I'm busy all day, right? So, but I'm working on the things that are fun for me and invigorating. And I'm not doing the heavy lifting that I was doing before, because I've established systems and money and people to help me. Right. And so then you're in a position to scale, because you have people, you have systems, you have technology, all that stuff. Right. So I just think just know that nobody bypasses the heavy lifting unless you have billions of dollars to start, and unless you were born into this great network of people. And then even then you don't have respect, because if it's not your money and you didn't earn it, people don't respect you. So you got to earn that. So in some way, you always got to earn something. And if you didn't have to, there wouldn't be a game. So just play the game and work towards it, and pick a path, and you'll do great.
Amazing, Ted. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us tonight. Everyone who joined us, Arame, Darlene, Cynthia, Linda, Alan, Gina, you guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us and joining this conversation and asking amazing questions, because it really is about you. We're here for you, and we're going to see you very soon. I know, Ted, you are out next week. You've got an amazing and you earned a bit of a vacation. You got your girlfriend flying in, right?
She is. She comes in a week. So we're going to Miami for a little bit. But I think we're going to try and talk to Gen X. I think we're going to try and do this show somehow. So
we'll make it work. We'll figure it out. Ted, thank you so much for joining us today. And those of you who have brought us amazing questions, and we're really here for you. So thanks a lot. And we'll talk to you all very, very soon.